Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all okay and doing well. My name's Adelena and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am doing a teaching series. I'm a teacher, in case you didn't know. I teach in primary school and I'm currently in year 1. I have amassed a wealth of knowledge. No, I'm joking. But I have been given a lot of advice. I've gained new tips and strategies, practices that I've implemented in my classroom that have helped me to become a better teacher. I say great.
You go and be great with your lavender.
Because I'll be tooting my own horn then. And I wanted to share that with you so you can use these strategies as well in your own classroom. Okay, with that being said, let's just get on with the video. My first tip to becoming a great teacher is to set high expectations for your pupils. It is so important to make sure that your expectations of the pupils is higher than what they are when they first come in. You want to set your expectations high for your pupils because you want them to have to work towards something. If they know that you've got really high expectations and this is the standard and the quality of work that my teacher expects, they will work towards that and they will achieve that because you set that as the standard. This is the expectation that this is what you're going to do and you will meet that. And you'll be very surprised as to how quickly they can meet that. Think of it this way, when they first start the year, your expectations of them should be higher than the level of work that they're currently producing. And by then they will get to know what they need to do to achieve your expectations and to meet that standard of work, and they will work towards that. If I say to them, listen, I want you to use capital letters, full stops, write sentences, chop them up properly, spell them correctly, and reread your work, pupils will do it. My year 1 pupils do that, and that's because that's the expectation I've set of them. So you set the expectations for your classroom and make sure pupils are aware of that and know how to achieve it. When their work is evident of the expectations you've set of them, you need to accept nothing less. Raise your standards higher, raise your expectations higher. So top tip number 1 is to set high expectations of your pupils. Okay, my next tip is resources. Oh my gosh, I wish I knew this when I first started. You do not need to make things yourself. Use resources that are available first and then adapt them. In my first year, I spent my whole weekend, I would spend Saturday and Sunday planning from scratch. I would create flip charts, PowerPoints from scratch, add pictures, videos, make it move and add transitions. I was doing the most.
You're doing too much.
When I really didn't need to be doing that. What I could have done and what I advise anybody who's starting out is to use the resources that are already out there because there are so many, and then adapt them for your class. But it saves you so much time, and it just makes your life a lot easier. I guarantee you every lesson that you teach has been taught before, and more than likely it is available on the internet. So look there first before you create your own one. If it's not available or for some reason it's not to the standard that you like it, then by all means create your own one. And I still do create my own PowerPoints and flip charts to this day, but I will go and use the resources that are available first. There are certain websites that are very helpful and I will link them down below, but just to let you know now, TES is a really good resource and that's actually made by teachers. Like teachers upload their PowerPoints that they've made onto that website, and a lot of the things are free on that. So yeah, TES, great. I use that all the time. Twinkle is really good and it's very aesthetically pleasing because it's all like cartoony and it just looks really nice for the kids. If you do use anything from Twinkle, make sure you do adapt it for your own class because they will have their own objectives in their PowerPoints and you want to make it personalized for yours because your class might be different. But yeah, Twinkle is great. They have PowerPoints, flip charts, games, worksheets, displays, they have it all. So use it. It is like probably one of the most useful tools that are out there. BBC Bite Size. I really like to use videos when I'm teaching because I feel like it sums up something that I'm trying to explain in like a 2-minute clip. BBC Bite Size has great videos. That is a great resource to use and I use that for maths, English, science, topic. I use it all the time. YouTube is a great resource. It has something on everything. We do this strategy called the make 10 strategy in maths, and it's like you've got to make the number 10 first when you're adding or subtracting and then add the rest. found a video of it on YouTube and it made so much more sense. So use the resources that are out there and available to you, because they will make your life a lot easier. And you know, there's no point working for hours creating something that is probably already there. Okay, tip number 3 is to plan engaging lessons. So this kind of relates back to my last tip on resources, but it's really important to plan fun and engaging lessons. I like to think of it this way: if I enjoy planning the lesson, I'm going to enjoy teaching the lesson, and the pupils are going to enjoy learning about whatever it is that they're learning about. And that means you have to put effort into your planning and into making sure that these lessons are engaging and are fun for the children to be learning. I don't like to be sitting in a lecture hall with somebody talking at me for half an hour. Same way, your pupils aren't just going to want to sit and listen to you talk on and on at them.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's going to get boring after a while and they are going to shut off. But if you plan fun and engaging lessons where you might throw in a video now and then, you give them a chance to speak, you give them a practical activity every now and then, things to bring your classroom alive and to make it more fun and get them more invested in whatever it is that they are learning about, will really help you when you're teaching to get more out of the children, as they will be more willing to contribute and share valid knowledge and experiences that will support classroom discussions. As I said, ways that I try to plan fun and engaging lessons, I always try to create opportunities for them to talk to each other so they can socialize and collaborate when they're learning. I also try to include a lot of videos, because I know my class, they respond really well to videos, and I've sort of trained them where I will put on a video, and before I put it on I'll say, okay, I'm going to ask a few of you, what have you learned from that video? So make sure you're listening. By the end, all of them have their hands up and they're ready to tell me one fact that they've learned from that video. So it just helps them to be a bit more responsive. So it's just different ways to sort of shake up your lesson and not just keep it one level didactic teaching where you're just talking at them. It helps to change the dynamics of your lesson and make it seem a bit more alive. If you can go outside for a bit. I know in science, especially when we're doing our topic about plants, anytime that we could go outside, I would take them outside and let them explore for themselves. Anything that you have at home, any resources, any material or equipment that is relevant to what they're learning about, bring it in, let them see. I've even done a lesson on weather. It was weather symbols, and I got the children to bring in different clothes that they could wear for different weathers. And they had to then sort out everyone's clothes into spring, what was appropriate for summer, what was appropriate for winter and autumn, and then what was appropriate for different weathers. And it was so fun and engaging because they had their own items, and at the end they got to dress each other up using those clothes. And the children will want to learn. They will want to learn and they will want to share their knowledge on what they've learned with you. Okay, tip number 4 for becoming a great teacher is behaviour management. Get your behaviour management sorted at the beginning of the year. From the jump, your pupils need to know what is expected, what does good behaviour look like, what does bad behaviour look like, what do you want to see, how am I supposed to be learning. They need to know all of that, the classroom rules, the regulations, the expectations. It needs to be made very, very clear from the outset. When you do that and you have that in line, teaching will become a lot more easier because you're not having to focus on low-level disruptions like telling so-and-so to be quiet or telling you to stop talking, telling you to pick up your pencil, telling you to sit up properly. Little things like that you won't have to focus on, which can be disruptive when you're teaching. So, behaviour management, get it in check.
Who gonna check me, boo?
How to do this, I can make a whole video in itself about behaviour management, but there are little tips and tricks. One being, make sure that you are positive with your behaviour management. I like to try and bring a positive focus rather than focusing on the negative. So if there were 2 pupils and one is being really disruptive, is not sitting properly on the carpet, I would say to the child,
hey, look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
But then there is a pupil that is sitting really well and behaving how I want them to. I'm not going to focus on the behaviour that is negative. I'm going to focus on the positive behaviour. And I'm going to call it out and be specific and say, I really like the way so-and-so is sitting. They're showing me that they're listening. That's what I want to see in this classroom. So that pupils know.
I'm a boss.
That way, you're alerting that child that 1, this is the behaviour that I actually want to see. 2, what I'm doing isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. 3, I'm not going to get attention if I'm not doing the right thing, which is a big thing. So behaviour management shouldn't be negative, constantly disciplining, this is what you need to do, this is what I expect in this classroom. It can actually be a really positive way of establishing the behaviours you want to see for learning. Another tip for behaviour management is to focus on building relationships with your pupils. This may sound like common sense and things you do naturally, but really making sure that you know your pupils, you know what they like, you know what they dislike, you spend time with them, can actually have a very big impact on how they behave in class. Pupils that may be displaying disruptive behaviours in class, once you've established positive relationships with them and they can see that, yes, this is my teacher and she cares about me, so when she's telling me off or telling me not to do something, I know it's not because she doesn't like me, but I know that's because that's not what she wants to see in class. You'll be surprised as to how fast their behaviour starts changing, and they will start to display the positive behaviours that you want them to be displaying. So, in a nutshell, if you build positive relationships with your pupils, they will want to behave for you. Like, if you're nice to me, I'm going to be nice to you. If I know my teacher is nice and cares about me, I'm going to want to behave for her in class and listen to what she has to say. It's as simple as that. So make sure that you do establish and continuously work throughout the year on the relationships that you have with your pupils, and you will see the positive effect this has on their behaviour in class and their learning and their contributions within lessons. Okay, we are halfway through the video. We're on tip number 5. My next tip for becoming a great teacher is to model. Modelling is so important. I can't stress this enough. You need to model everything.
Work to be a winner. Sweat.
You want to model the behaviour that you want to see in the children, and this might mean being overly kind and thankful and grateful to your TA or other members of staff and the children, like really highlighting behaviours that you like. So you might go and help a child who can see struggling doing up their jacket, help them go and do up their jacket. You can see that they're struggling with something or they've spilt something on the floor, go and help them tidy it up. And if you see other children doing it, make sure you praise them out loud in front of everyone and highlight what they've done. I really like the way so-and-so is helping do up their jacket. That's what I like to see. You're being really helpful. Highlight the behaviours that you like, model them yourself. This goes with learning as well, and this is for primary school and secondary school. Model the learning that you want the children to do. They can see exactly what the work should look like by the end of the lesson. So if I want them to write the beginning of a story, I will start doing the beginning of the story. Once upon a time there lived da-da-da-da-da. Making sure I announce I'm doing my capital letter, da-da-da-da. Be specific, because when you model what you're doing, it's almost like visual instructions for the children to see. Okay, this is what it looks like at the beginning. Next I need to do this. They're making mental notes of all the things they need to remember. So you modelling it will really help them and make it clear for them to see exactly what they should be doing and what their learning should look like. Okay, tip number 6 for becoming a great teacher: create opportunities where you allow the children to share their views and speak out in class. It's really important for children to be able to collaborate with each other, but also to share their own experiences. A lot of the time the things that you're teaching, they either already know about, they might not know about it, but have got a relevant experience attached to it. For example, we could be learning about dinosaurs and a child has been to the Natural History Museum. Let them talk about that. It's valid and it will help them with their learning. If they can attach a meaningful experience or conversation to the learning, they will be able to revisit and retrieve the knowledge that they need a lot quicker. Just make sure that within your lessons you are giving pupils the chance to speak and put their hands up and share whatever they want to share with you within that lesson. You will get a lot more after the lessons because it's not just you talking at them, they are also feeding back and responding to what you're teaching them. If you find it quite hard to do this naturally, or you find that within lessons you actually run out of time to listen to their ideas, make sure you incorporate it in your planning. Write down your question and then say, okay, then I want the children to turn and talk to each other, then I want them to share and feedback their ideas that they've said. This will help you and it will structure it at first and then it will become a lot more natural to you. But yeah, it's really important to create those opportunities and listen to the pupils because then you know what they're learning. It's a way of assessing them. I can see what so-and-so knows, I can see how much you know, I can see who still needs help on this topic. An example of this in my classroom is we were learning about dinosaurs and and I literally put a picture up of dinosaurs because it was the first lesson. And before I even said anything, this girl put her hand up and she was like, I want to tell you something about dinosaurs. And I was like, okay, go off. And she was like, well, we don't know what dinosaurs look like or what they sounded like because there were no humans around when dinosaurs existed. And I was like, who taught you that? And she was like, I watched it in a movie. But it's so interesting to see where pupils learn things from and the actual knowledge they have. You may assume they don't know anything on a subject and they know quite a lot. You may also assume that they know a lot on a subject and actually come to find out they don't know very much. So letting them speak and share their knowledge is very useful for you as an assessment tool to assess who knows what and where your learning needs to go in the next few lessons. Tip number 7 on becoming a great teacher is to create an inviting classroom atmosphere where you want pupils to feel that it's safe and you want them to be encouraged to share their ideas and opinions within the class. There has been a lot of talk over the past few years on growth mindset, and I guess this sort of plays into that. Growth mindset simply means that you can achieve and learn something and acquire that knowledge. All you have to do is work hard, in a nutshell. I'm gonna sum it up like that. There's probably more to it, but basically it's if I work hard, I will learn something. I'm not naturally smart and I don't just know things, and I'm not naturally stupid. I can work hard and learn something if I put my mind to it. And yes, there may be mistakes and challenges on the way, but I can overcome this, and when I do, this will help me learn.
Yes, queen! Yes, queen!
So you want your pupils to have that attitude, and you want to create a space where they feel that it's safe to do so, where they can make mistakes. The way that I did this in my classroom was to make purposeful mistakes within my teaching, and I would also encourage any other adults in your classroom to do the same. I was very lucky in my first year that I had an experienced teacher as my teaching assistant, and they used to do this all the time. So I would be teaching and I'd ask a question. So let's say I said, all right, what type of punctuation do we use at the end of a sentence? Just a normal sentence. And she would put her hand up and be like, and I would be like, okay, miss, what do you think the answer is? And she would then say the wrong answer on purpose so that the kids would be able to point out that she made a mistake, what the right answer was, and then she would then be able to go back, take their suggestions, work on it in front of them, and then give the right answer. And that may seem really silly and forced, but it's not. It actually really helped them in the sense that they knew it was okay to make mistakes, and that the adults in the classroom also made mistakes. We don't know everything. For some reason, it's a lot easier to notice errors in someone else's work than in your own work, and they were able to point that out. And it just meant that they knew that they had to work through a mistake. If they found something hard and they weren't able to do it, or they made a mistake, or they found it challenging, the expectation is that you continue on until you get the right answer. So that was really useful for establishing growth mindset and helping create that environment where it's safe to share my ideas, safe to give my opinions, and yeah, I might make mistakes, but it's still relevant and I can still learn from it, and the other pupils can as well. And soon you'll see that a lot more pupils are putting their hands up and contributing because they feel confident in doing so, which is what you want. It's what you want in your classroom. You want that. Okay, tip number 8 for becoming a great teacher is to do with feedback. Ask for feedback. Get feedback wherever you can. Teaching is one of those professions where you are constantly learning and there is never an end point. New pedagogical practices, strategies are constantly being released. There is always something new to learn. There's always a new strategy to implement. There are just new studies that bring out new information which change the nature of teaching and learning and planning. So when you take that on board, you constantly need to be adapting your teaching. And the only way that you can successfully do that is if you reflect on your own practice, but also if you get feedback. You can get feedback from your senior leadership team, so your deputy head, your head teacher if they do observations, your year group lead, your subject lead, any phase lead can give you feedback. Your partner teacher can give you valuable feedback. especially because they will have taught lessons you've done, and where you may have found something quite hard and challenging to teach, you can ask your partner teacher. I always ask my partner teacher how did they teach something, so I can see if there's a different way that I can do it, or if I found something challenging, I will ask them what they did and they will let me know a better strategy to use. So it's really useful to ask for feedback because it will help your practice and it will help you become a better teacher as well. You can even ask for feedback from your pupils. Ask them at the end of the lesson, what did you enjoy? What did you learn? Do you like doing those kind of tasks? Should we do that again in the future? And you can see what they want to do in school as well, which is useful because they are the ones that you are teaching, and it's valid to get their contributions and their opinions. Ask your TA as well for feedback. Your TA is with you the majority of the time. They are with you 24/7 most likely. So you can ask them for feedback on your lessons. If you've asked them to teach pupils using a specific strategy, you can ask them how they found that. So use the resources that you have, use the people that you have. People will always be willing to give you feedback because at the end of the day, you're showing that you want to improve and get better at your job. My next top tip is displays. Use your displays effectively. I had to learn this one because at the beginning I was very lazy, and what I stuck up on the wall was like stuck up on the wall. It was only until like the end of like autumn term that I was like, okay, I really need to change this, and how can I use it so that the kids can learn? Having a TA that likes doing displays as well was very helpful because they also bring valuable ideas, and I'm not that creative when it comes to arranging it, so it was very helpful to have that. But yeah, use your displays in your classroom effectively. Pupils will use the displays if they are there. They will use them if they don't want to ask you for help. They will use them if they want to work independently. They will use them if you are too busy working with another group and they can see that and they still want to make sure that they're doing the work. They will look around the classroom and use the displays to try and help them. So make sure that the displays that you have are reflective of the learning that's taking place in the classroom. If we're learning about plants, I'm going to make sure that my display has something on plants where they can find out the answer for it. If we are learning about number bonds, best believe my wall is going to be covered in number bonds. Some displays you have that will stay up throughout the whole year. So for example, I'm in year 1 and I've got a phonics display which is permanently up. But then other displays should be working walls where it changes according to the topic and the subject that you're on and the nature of the work that they're on. Your display should also have pupils' work on there so they can see what good work looks like at all times. See, I got feedback from my partner teacher and they would display writing throughout the week from higher attaining pupil, a middle attaining pupil and a lower attaining pupil, so pupils could see what good quality work looks like. Also, it's really important to display all pupils' work throughout the year just because they want to see that what they're doing is useful and is being used in class. So yeah, use your displays effectively. It will help you and it will actually make your life easier. It is another resource to help the children and support them with their learning and scaffold them. So use it, it's there. Okay, finally, my last tip, tip number 10, which is probably my favorite tip of all time. It's very personal and some people like it, some people don't. I found that this really works for me and my year group, and I'm willing to share this fountain of knowledge with you all. Give children a set time every week where they can express themselves and relax and have fun. I'm sure lots of different schools have different names for it. In my class, we call it golden time, but it's just that downtime that pupils have to let their hair down, to relax and do something that they choose to do whilst they're in school. I think this is very important for several reasons. It gives them that time to express themselves and to have fun in a school environment. There will be pupils that do not like working, that do not like coming to school, but giving them a chance to play about, not just in the playground, but with actual equipment that you have in your classroom, will help them become more confident and enjoy the space that they are in. Okay, you might be thinking, what does this look like, or what type of activity should I be doing? In my classroom, I set up different stations. So it's almost like a carousel where they have lots of different tables or areas in the room where they have different activities going on. So on one table I have arts and crafts, and it's got sequins, feathers, string, coloured paper, tissue paper, all of those types of things where pupils can just pick it up, take it to the table and use whatever they want to create whatever they want. I also have games that I bought, which I would suggest you invest in. I literally went on Amazon and picked up a few games. I bought cards, I bought Jenga, I bought... There's this Heads Up, it's like Heads Up, but it's this game where you have a card and you have to put it on a band which sits on your head, and the people around you have to you have to guess what's on your head, but they have to describe it to you. I think they're only allowed to say yes or no. This is really good. This is actually, I thought I bought this as a game, but I realised this is educational because children have to use adjectives when they're describing what it is, and it just helps them develop communication skills. And it's really fun as well. We also have Lego and dinosaurs, which I let them do that on another table or on the carpet, and they can just play about and build stuff with. Again, Lego is educational because it helps your fine motor skills. They love using like the whiteboard pens and my whiteboards and pretend to be teaching a class. So they like having like a little role play area where they pretend to be a teacher. This happens every golden time. So allowing them to use things like that. I also let them use the maths resources. So we have counters, buttons, multi-link cubes, deans, and I let them use all of that in golden time as well, as long as they put it back nicely, which they know to now. I remember Pupils were making fidget spinners with the multi-link cubes, and I was like, how did you do that? How did you even think of doing that? So yeah, giving them their time to do what they want just allows them to be creative and to have that downtime. Sometimes I sit on the table with them and I'm colouring in, and I'm like, guys, so what's happened? Tell me what's happening in the week. And you know, they're giving me all the gossip. And I'll be like,
Who is saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
so it's even nice for you just to find out what's happening in your classroom, and you can sit with them and relax with them. As tempting as it may be to do planning or marking during golden time, I think it's really important to set that time apart to spend with your pupils. As I said, you need to build positive relationships with them, and this is something that will help doing that. Where you may have told the pupil off in the beginning of the day or previously in the week, if you're spending time with them in golden time, it lets them know that that wasn't personal and that was specific to that lesson, but you do like them as a person. I just think it's really important for you to spend that quality time where you're not teaching them, you're not telling them off, you're not helping them do work, you're just in their presence, spending quality time with them and playing with them, which is what they want. Okay, we have reached the end of the video. Those are my top 10 tips for becoming a great teacher. I feel like I've been talking for ages and my throat is actually starting to hurt from this. Who knew I could talk too much? Hopefully there's been at least one tip that you've taken away and thought that's useful and you can implement in your own classroom. If you have any tips that you want to contribute and think are worthwhile or useful to know, then put them in the comments so other people can see them. It'll be really useful to see what everybody else thinks and any other tips that could be helpful for our classroom practice. Make sure you give it a thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to my channel. As I said, I will be doing a teaching series, so this is just the first episode in that. If there's anything you want me to specifically make a video on, you can write it in the comments and I'll be happy to think about it. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram, Adelina Joy. I think that's everything. Peace. See you guys at the next one. Bye.